Welcome to the Rethink Reality podcast, where we explore the intersection of creativity, technology, and the future of human potential. I'm Don Allen Stevenson III, speaker, author, and creative technologist, exploring how AI and emerging tools reshape the way we create, communicate, and imagine what's next. My guest today is Rourke Sefton-Minns, a British digital creator and AI workflow specialist. We discussed how AI is transforming creative work, why play and education are essential to adoption, and how community can combat isolation in this fast-paced environment. You'll learn why accessibility matters, how to stay consistent in a noisy world, what it means to build a platform around your creative voice. This episode is about empowerment, experimentation, and the future of creative tools. And now, my conversation with Rourke Sefton-Minns. Welcome to the Rethink Reality podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I've seen you online now for such a long time, and actually being able to talk to you is such an honor. So thank you so much for having me.
Wow, I'm so excited to hear that. And thank you. What actually got you into this intersection of AI, creativity, and education?
Yeah, so kind of just before I got into AI, I was actually doing Photoshop design tutorials, and I set myself this goal of posting every day on social media for 420 days. And I was on, I want to say maybe like day 200 of this Photoshop journey when I was like, okay, do you know what? Generative fill is kind of coming into Photoshop, and that was like becoming more popular. And whenever I would do tutorials on it, they would outperform everything else. And I was like, okay, maybe we're onto something here with the whole AI scene, you know? And I kind of had this theory that people were either excited, scared, or felt some kind of emotion when they were like watching this AI content. They were like, wow, like mind blown. So I was like, okay, let's have a look at like what web apps are out there. Like, what can I find and what can I share? And I remember I found this like very basic like clothing changing tool that was kind of very new at the time, and I covered it and it just went bonkers. And I was like, okay, I'm going all in on this space here, and I'm not turning back. So shifted everything away from design, but kind of took the design principles that I had and then started to apply it to AI. And that's kind of what led me onto this journey of just education, AI, and kind of showcasing all of these tools that we have at our disposal, to basically just come up with workflows that, you know, don't currently exist. And for me, that is like the most exciting part about what's happening at the moment. It's like finding these workflows.
Gosh, when I see any of your workflow videos, I'm always like, oh my God, I need to try this right now. And it's just like exciting and energetic. And I can really see that design thinking in your layout. Like you have like a separation of color language, you have fonts that you're using kind of for your framing. So, you know, that transition period, did you ever feel or experience any fear when you realized that this is the space that you wanted to build in, especially coming from a design background?
Not massively. I think so. Basically, are you asking like when it comes to moving from the design world? Actually, do you know what? When I moved from like the design world, I had a lot of like die-hard designer audience, and when I started to cover the AI tools, there was a bit of friction because naturally people kind of, especially designers at heart, share this level of increasing anxiety when it comes to these AI tools. And the more that they've advanced, I have actually seen it taper off less. I think at the start, people were really afraid of these tools that I was talking about. And they were kind of theorizing, oh my God, like in a year's time, my job's going to be gone. Well, we're a year ahead now, and they're still a designer. So I think it's interesting, but now I think people are starting to adopt the tools. And I think that the kind of design community has kind of joined me in this journey of learning how to adopt them, which I'm really grateful for. And I don't feel that friction anymore, which I'm kind of happy about.
Oh my goodness. So you're probably like even more free to share workflows now, knowing that there's an adoption of the space now.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think that like a lot of the designers that I speak to, and a lot of like the videos that I make are actually targeted for those entry level people who are trying to come into AI. And I really try and focus on like making the videos like as basic to understand as possible so that when somebody new who maybe doesn't know much about I can just describe it as an image generator. I don't have to call it like a base model, or I don't call it a lot of the time, like I won't use the technical terms like LoRa's or things like that. And I'll kind of just keep it really basic so we can introduce people and start educating this new wave of people into AI. And then we can start hammering home some of the more advanced stuff on other platforms and for people who are interested. So that's kind of what I try and do, is just keep like that funnel like as broad as possible to, you know, get everyone involved who wants to learn about creative AI, who wants to learn about this new wave that's coming in right now.
I love your perspective of kind of like getting people in and making it, simplified. It makes me wonder about like what actually excites you. Is it fair to say that what excites you most about the AI tools is the fact that they are becoming so democratized and liberating? Is that fair?
I think so. It's two sides to that. There's one which is, yes, I'm thrilled that they're becoming so easy to use, and I'm thrilled that they're becoming so accessible. But there is also a part of me that is afraid that they are becoming so easy to use. So is my job going to be replaced with AI? Because I'm like an educator in this space, but these tools are becoming so easy to use. Is there really a job for an educator on these tools? Because they're so simple and so easy. With Google VO3, it's just as easy as writing in what you want with audio and visuals, and it kind of gives you exactly what you describe. So even me, as somebody who's like an educator in AI, I'm thinking, holy crap, am I going to be replaced? So um, yeah, take on that.
Wow. So I mean, God, you're echoing my own feels, to be honest, hearing that. I'm just like, yeah, because like the stuff gets easier and easier every day. So I mean, is there anything that you think is not gonna be touched by AI?
In the creative space,
Yeah.
taste. Taste is something that I kind of hear the word that everyone echoes. And, I think I was listening to yesterday the CEO of Google DeepMind saying that the one thing that VO doesn't have is taste. And he says that like he doesn't think ever that the AI will be able to replicate taste. I don't necessarily agree. I do think that taste will become easier to attain, having good taste. But for right now, I still think like the designers and the true creatives who have put in the many years into their craft and their industry, they have such a leg up when they start using these AI tools in comparison to people who aren't necessarily creative, who then pick up these AI tools. So I still think that, like, regardless of who you are, if you consider yourself a creative and you pick up these tools, you can create something wonderful and meaningful in your own right.
Such a good perspective that taste is this like very precious thing. Just to challenge a little bit, do you think we'll ever have an AI that has taste?
I would say that like we kind of do already, because you have things like Midjourney with the personalization feature where, obviously when you sign up. So for those of you who don't know, when you sign up to Midjourney, which is one of the biggest AI image generators, you have to click through 200 images where you basically are saying, I prefer image A or I prefer image B. All right. And at that point, you're already learning what the AI is already learning what the taste is that you like. So when you're generating these images, it's already applying your taste into account. So I would say that like we're kind of already there. I think that like the more that you train like your Midjourney account, for example, I'd argue even better, like using 1,000 images in comparison to 200, you almost train your mini data set and you train your taste even more. So I'd say that like, yes, absolutely. I'd say that AI will have taste in the future. And it's kind of already here right now, just at like a micro level.
I think that's such a solid example, and I did not even consider that. You're right. When you're using the personalization feature, you're kind of informing it on your taste, and so you're saying that we already have AIs that have taste right now.
100%, 100%. I think that we have AI that has taste right now. But I still think that
Woo!
it's like it's like 90 for me. It's like 90-10 though. I still think it's like basically 95-5, where it's still like the user inputting the level of creativity into these tools. But I do see that probably shifting more. It's almost like the way that I see it is almost like, you know, how ChatGPT has this memory of you and like it knows you over time. And like the more you use it, the kind of bigger this data set is that you have for your ChatGPT, which is great. And I feel like in the creative industry, once these tools become more normalized and like these big players, you know, that you've got for these image models start being become more centralized, the over time it will be able to understand your taste more and more, kind of like ChatGPT has this recognition of you as a character. So I feel like these creative tools over time will be able to have like a better understanding of us as individuals. And I think that will be great because it will just help make content that streamlined, kind of a bit more streamlined, but also, yeah, you just get things in your own taste like much quicker.
And I notice, like, when I look at a lot of your work, it's very much about making things more accessible. I see you using tools like Kling and Midjourney a lot. Is there anything that's still in the way of, getting there, getting the thing that you have out to the world? What would make it, yeah, what's still in the way of making it truly fully accessible?
I'd say it's still a financial thing. Like credits, the whole credit-based system that we have at the moment, I would say is probably the thing that's holding back the floodgates. Quite literally, if you open those floodgates and you also like you have open source models, right? Where people can use these tools for free. However, you know, to even like download and install that on your computer, a lot of like people don't know how to do that. I've literally never downloaded something and used it locally on my computer. I haven't. I've only ever used kind of these tools that we have available to us on the internet. And I've paid an ungodly amount of money into those machines, you know, and I think
Same.
that, yeah, I have no shame admitting that I've spent too much money on those machines, almost like a slot machine, just like chugging away at my credits. Yeah, literally. But I would say that, like, if you removed that barrier, then it would go crazy. Sorry, like, my brain goes crazy with these things, but like, I was just thinking, if you, like, for example, were in school, right? And you take like a school child who has the ability to play with these tools with unlimited credits, the level of creativity that you could instill in that child would be insane. Like just letting them play with these video generators, image generators, taking the images, turning them to videos, like they would be able to tell some of the most compelling stories in comparison to us adults, in my opinion. You know, teach them how to create a consistent character. And my God, they could create some of the coolest things on the planet. I've never seen that before. I've never seen kids playing with these tools. And I think it would be so cool in the education system to kind of remove that barrier and just let
Just fully unconstrained creativity. Like a little kid when they,
them.
play with clay or like Play-Doh and they're just moving around, they're just making shapes. You don't have to pay credits every time you want to change the shape of your clay.
Mm.
Like that would be ridiculous if we said, here's some clay to this little 6-year-old, and then they adjust the clay a little bit, and then all of a sudden the clay vanishes
Yeah.
until they pay money in a slot machine. That'd
Yeah.
be ridiculous. Like, wait, I'm still working.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's like that friction of like, wow. So you're saying if we can get these tools into like the youngest minds, and if they had this truly frictionless environment where they could generate without credits, we would see creativity like we've never actually imagined before.
100%. But also, like, for me, the word is play. Like, play is so important with these tools. Like, play, play, play. Like, you are a child with clay. Start using these tools. Everyone, like, literally everyone, start molding, start using these tools and create some, like, really fun things. Like, genuinely, my advice to, like, anyone moving into this space is to just play with all of these tools that you might have heard kicking around. Cling, Midjourney, start generating images on Adobe. You know, there's so many options these days. I feel like that's also part of the barrier to entry is that people are like, there are so many different tools. Where do I even start? That's such a common question. And to be honest, if you don't know where to start, it's almost like people just give up on the spot. And that's something that I'm really trying to work on at the moment is kind of just creating a centralized place where people can learn from what I think are the most valuable tools, as somebody who plays with them all day, every day. And that's what I'm just trying to do. That's my North Star.
So tell me a little bit about that. So like, if the main issue is that they don't even know where to start, there's too many tools. Are you building something that would kind of help be a place where they could go where it helps them get that start, kind of centralizes it and gives direction? Yeah, what are you working on?
So right now, I wouldn't say that I'm working on anything of the such, but I like my biggest, like one of the companies that I work with is called FreePick. And I'm sure you're familiar, but what FreePick is it's called an AI suite, right? Where basically they are taking all of the best tools from the internet and they're connecting them into their own website with something called an API. And they're basically taking ChatGPT. So you can generate an image with ChatGPT, but actually you can now use it inside FreePick. And they've done that with hundreds of other companies so that you now have all of these tools in one place that you can go play around with. And so, and it all under one subscription too. For like $15 a month, you can play with quite literally all of these tools.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
wait,
fantastic.
how? How can they afford that?
It's
I mean, if
crazy.
you're going to use, yeah, how does that work?
So they work with a lot of the companies directly, and they actually are able to even price cheaper than what some of the other competitors are. So like Google VO3 might be coming out very shortly on FreePick, and I know for a fact that it's cheaper than it is on Google, for example. So like they're able to work with these companies directly, and they negotiate some cheaper rates so that they can also, keep their subscriptions low. But the amount of money that it costs these video generators or these image generators to create is pennies. Yet they charge us as the consumer a premium. And kind of what FreePick are doing is they're reducing the price, making it more affordable for everyone to start playing and keeping it all in one place. So that is like my go-to starting place for people, especially businesses. And like I do consulting now with a lot of outdoor fashion brands, some really cool household names. And when I'm working with their marketing teams, I'm basically saying, look, here is this one tool. If you've never played with I could give you a subscription to this website and you can play. And you can just play and play and play. And it's a great option for like people who are kind of getting into the space.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing the name free pick pop up in more and more conversations in the AI space. And after you explained it, I get it now. I'm like, oh
Mm.
my goodness, if you could have one spot, then it allows people to stay in that playing mindset, but not have that main barrier of like this prohibitive credit system or cost that just keeps bumping up and hitting that limit.
Yeah. No, 100%. Because it's like right now, it's like I want to generate an image on Midjourney. Now I need to buy another subscription to go somewhere else, and then there's that friction and you kind of lose the customer along the way. So what FreePick have done is they've created this AI suite that's kind of just brought it all together so you can create, ideate, come up with everything you need all in one place. So it's a really good position for people to kind of get started.
So I want to kind of shift gears a little bit here and ask you a question around community versus individualism.
Mhm.
So, are we in danger of AI isolating creators even further than they already are? And do your events, dinners, and IRL meetups do they actually help counter that?
Great question. So the right now, what I am noticing is a trend in the tech space. Let's start wide and then kind of niche it in. So even in the tech space, right, when social media was introduced, the idea was to connect everyone and bring them together. And there's obviously this kind of flip side where people say, actually, it kind of does the opposite and it keeps us in our own home. And I feel like the way that tech is moving is how can we make it easier for us to never leave our house? Right. And, we've got like home food delivery. We've got Amazon delivering things directly to our front door. We've got anything we need all coming straight to our house. And now like creativity is on our laptop, right? And it's kind of like made creating so easy. Like before, when people would need to go and do filming scouting locations and be outside and be in a community where they're filming a whole film or project together, like that was all in person collaborative work. And now, because the barrier is so easy, it's becoming so easy for people to be creative in their own space, right? And that's people's comfy space. So people love creating from their own home. And so it makes sense. But also my fear is that we know that like going outside, going on a walk, talking with other humans and interacting with them is the most important thing for our mental health. So actually like encouraging people to do those things alongside creating from home is something that I'm a huge advocate for, because right now like people are creating from their from their workspaces at home, and they're not interacting with people. So what I'm trying to do at the moment is I'm trying to build a community of AI creatives who love creating from their own home, but also want that socializing part of their job or their life too, because I
Yes.
think that in the next 10 years, they're really, with robots too coming in, like there will be no reason to kind of ever need to leave your home. So like that is something that I really want to focus on, because I think that's where real value will come in, as opposed to just like the education side. Is like also how can we educate and make people happy at the same time?
I mean, gosh, that would be so necessary. I mean, 2 years ago, I ran a program, an in-person event called Camp Future Proof. I held it for my
Mm,
followers. All of them are mostly tech people, but we all went to these mountains in the Santa Cruz Mountains in Northern California. And for 3 days, I hosted a camp where we basically did nature walks, had a lot of reflection journals, played shared games and activities. And I intentionally chose a spot with crappy Wi Fi so that
mm,
it wasn't actually an option to like disconnect. You had to be
yeah.
present. You had to socialize. What kind of, for folks that are listening, where, and let's say they are in the AI space and they are feeling lonely and they're feeling like they're lacking community, do you have any advice or recommendations or strategies that they can implement today that would help them reconnect physically in person with the community?
I'm going to be honest. Right now, I'm actually just going to say no. I don't have that advice yet, because I'm just now building this community. And I'm like working on it. And something that I found really difficult in this space is like trying to allocate time to the right things, and trying to learn where to allocate that time. And only recently I've kind of come up with this idea of creating an in-person community as well as the creative side. And I haven't seen many places for it. What I would say is going to the events. Like a lot of companies, AI companies, will host these events. The downside is that they have ticket prices and things like that. So we want it to be, affordable for people to be able to meet up and socialize and do things. But right now, I'd say the best thing to do is probably to meet other people at these like AI short film festivals, or go to these events that these companies are throwing to kind of bring AI creatives together. They're dotted all around Europe, America. They are happening, and it's becoming more and more popular. So I would definitely say sign up to some of those. But in the meantime, it's kind of just I'm working on this community side of things. So I'm hoping that there is a real niche and a gap for this kind of stuff. So I'm trying to fill that void in the next couple of months.
I'm very excited to see you grow out a community. One more question I have on this is around where do you even learn about these events? Like I know about AI on the lot. I'm familiar with
Mm.
the Artist in the Machine group. There's a Machine Cinema group, but like I don't even know where anyone's aggregating these events. So
Yeah.
like, where are you learning about them? I'm just genuinely curious.
Yeah, so I'm the way that I'm learning about them is through friends, which is like a really privileged place to be, because if you haven't got friends in the space already, then that's obviously a difficult barrier to entry. But what I would say is what I have started doing recently is just searching online for AI creative events, right? And just finding them, just a simple search. And you can even use ChatGPT, and it will help you kind of find and plan out whenever you're free. You can, obviously let it know when you're available, and it will find you events that you can go to. And so those are like really good ways to kind of get started, start getting involved with the community.
So excited to hear that.
What did you
Want to
find?
trans
Did you find your hike though? Like the hike, how many people did you have? Like, and what takeaways did you have from the hike that you did with all of those people?
Yeah, so it was an overnight camp. It was 3 days.
Okay.
And it was 17 people. I made a post about it on Instagram saying that I would like to host this in person camp to fight this epidemic of loneliness, but
Mm,
also you know, bring people together that have shared ideas. So, our community, I called them the future proofs on my Instagram, people that are kind of like at these forefronts. And so I invited my future proof community to this in-person camp. Um, you had to fly to it. We had people fly from outside the country to come to this camp, 17 people, 3 days, or I guess 2 nights, 3 days. And yeah, it was so fulfilling. And I'll be honest, even during the camp, myself and others actually cried in joy, like being around people again. It was
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, like what a need. Like just the idea of being around people that you can talk to in person was like an emotional experience that was like, it felt like a sigh of like relief,
Yeah.
like people get me.
Yeah.
I hosted a sound bath there. I brought a sound bath performer who used
Mhm.
like those singing sound bowls for a very like active meditation. And gosh, the types of things people were saying blew my mind. And actually, your friend that I mentioned, Justin from 11 Labs, that's when he came to my Camp Future Proof. He flew out from London there, and the connections that people made, the friendships they made together in person, lasted longer than the event, which I was actually surprised about. I see pictures and photographs of different Camp Future Proof members who have gone out and met each other long after the camp. And I'm like, oh my goodness, those are real friendships. Those are bonds that, so your interest in kind of having more IRL meetups, in-person events, dinners, attending those AI events
Mhm.
is really speaking to me. It's very
Mm.
felt. And
Mm.
yeah, thank you for building a community. Like if you need any help with it, I'm
Yeah.
happy to share anything.
100%. I'd love to touch on this slightly more though, because I think it's a really important topic for creatives and like the in like my daily life, like I have my family, I have my friends, and I have people in this space that I've worked really hard at trying to build a connection with as many people as I can in the AI space. And I would highly encourage other people watching to also try and do the same if you're interested. Reach out to people. You'll be surprised. Like so many people want to connect. They want to chat to you. They want to learn more about what you do. Everyone has something interesting about them. And I think what I kind of wanted to get at as well is that what's so nice about meeting up with other creatives is that in your personal life, you might not be able to talk to your friends or your partner or other people who necessarily understand you as well, or have gone through the same kind of frustrations and difficulties that you go through when you're working on the job as a creative. And I think especially when you then throw AI into the mix, it's like and even another layer that people are like, I'm so disconnected from this, I don't understand. So like talking to other people who are also like working with the same problems as you, understand your pain points is so important. So that's like a big reason as to why like I think this is so cool. And I'd love to know
Yeah.
like on your creative journey, because you've got a crazy creative journey. Have you ever like struggled with that, like having conversations with, maybe like your home friends or family who maybe might not have necessarily got you? Is that something that you've struggled with, or are you quite fortunate that people understand?
Maybe initially they didn't understand. So I've had to seek out groups. Back in the Metaverse hype days, I
Mm,
got into this one group called AR House. And there's these two gentlemen who basically bought a mansion or leased out a mansion in the Hollywood Hills to hold a 1 month long cohort every month with leading augmented reality developers. And they could stay in this mansion, collaborate. They had computers, excellent Wi Fi. And like I would go there not as a resident, I would just go to a lot of their events. And I found that I would go there with the intention of I'm just going to be there for an hour. I'm just going to pop by and then I'll leave. It'd be every time I went, I'd stay for like 12 hours of just deep conversations with like others in the similar space. And it was like a craving of like, wow, I wish I could dive deep. And so when I would get that chance to be with people that could go there,
mm,
I would dive super deep. So
mm,
but similar to you, it's through friends and networks. I also start going to a roller skating group.
mm.
They call themselves the Skate Honeys. It's for all kinds of people. Anyone can be a skate honey,
Okay.
and it's roller skates. They go as a giant group outside throughout Los Angeles, and it's
Mm,
a giant mob. It started during COVID, is when the group started. Very tiny number of people. Now the Skate Honeys org is like 100 more plus people all in skates. They wear lights. They go through Venice Beach and they meet daily, weekly. And so, yeah, I'm seeing like this increase in the need of community since everything's getting more and more synthetic. I know you talked about briefly, what was the dead internet theory? You mentioned that.
Yes.
Yes. Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
So there's this theory that I don't know if any of the people who are listening right now have heard about, but the dead internet theory is kind of something that's been brought up recently where with the introduction of all of this AI content that's coming into the world, it's the idea that there's going to be so much content to consume. There's going to be so many people creating high quality videos that there's almost just going to be this like infinite supply, which there already is, like there already is like an infinite supply of content on the internet for us to consume in our lifetime. But the idea is that the volume of output is going to increase exponentially with AI to the point that we won't be able to consume it at the rate that it's being produced. So people will just stop consuming in a sense. So, I fear for myself as somebody who works on social media and in other sectors that there's just, in particular media, that there's just going to be so much media available, so many movies, so many high quality, long format videos, Netflix style series that'll be made in, short periods of time that it'll just be too much for people to consume. So it's like, how do you cut through the noise? Is something that like I'm really trying to think about at the moment. And right now, I'm aware that you're also aware of this stat, but like the in one day of content that's uploaded to YouTube, it's like 82 years worth of like if you were to sit down and consume it all, it's like 82 years of your life is just the amount of content being uploaded to YouTube alone.
Per
Um
day?
Per day. No, sorry, yes, per
82.
day in 24 hours, it's like 82 years of content if you were to sit down and watch it all. So like that is like a massive amount of content. And with the introduction of AI and like introducing all of these new video tools that we've now got available to us, the theory is that we're just never going to be able to consume this vast amount of content. So it'll be more difficult for people to kind of become a creator because there'll be so many other people who are just
Right.
like automating these videos and like creating, a video for you. And there's also this theory, sorry to kind of ramble on about this,
Oh,
but
no,
like
bring it.
there's also this theory that let's say you were a company and you created a really great advert for your company and you released it. Somebody is going to be able to replicate that entire advert in a few years in a matter of like 10 minutes to 30 minutes and be able to rerun that advert with the exact same script, but like, slight, tweaks here and there with their product in. And, your advert that you're like, this is a killer advert and it's going to do so well for me is now kind of turning into this, it will cease to be a good advert because other people will also be using it straight away, and kind of take away your competition and like your competitors from your product. So there's so many scary things that are like coming from this, but it's all about staying educated. Like education is all I can kind of emphasize to just keep being playful, keep being educated.
So, like, given what you're saying, like the wave of just there's too much content out there. The sifting, it would take you 82 years to watch just one day's worth of YouTube content. What does it actually mean then to find audience, to build audience, or to create something real? I see you've created an audience. So, like, how did you push through the noise? And is there any wisdom that you can share to folks that also would like to push through the noise?
Yeah. So pushing through the noise really comes down to having an understanding of what you're posting and who you're posting to. And this kind of goes back to taste. Like, the only reason I've cut through the noise is because I posted for every single day for 420 days. And with each post that I made, I tried to learn something new each time. And, they say that like it takes like an athlete 10,000 hours to become a professional at something. It's the same thing. It's time, it's persistence, and it's learning along the way. Having an openness to learn and being inspired by other people too is so important. Having inspirations and watching and consuming their content is super important because it will, at the end of the day, help shape your content. Those are like the best things that I could suggest. I would say watch all the people who inspire you, recreate what they're doing in your own twist, and then eventually you'll find your own voice. And I think that's a great way to get started. And you'll eventually cut through the noise with consistency and an openness to learn.
I love that consistency and the openness to learn, having your voice out there, showing up, putting in the hours. That's how you break through the noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to ask as well. Kind of shifting a little bit, looking further ahead. What is one idea or experiment that you're dreaming about, but you actually haven't started yet?
Oh my God, I love this. There's so many things in this AI space that like I want to do that I just haven't had the time yet. Like right now, I'm a team of one and I'm about to be a team of two. So that's really exciting. I'll be able to multiply myself, which is great. So
Amazing.
yeah, it's I think the something that like I really want to work on is this community thing, which I've kind of been hammering home, creating this consistent education where we can teach creatives how to become more creative. What an absolute dream that would be. That's one thing. I think also building like my own AI tool that has my taste in it would be so sick so that people can not only experience their own creativity, but they could like what would be sorry, I'm like now just thought of this idea and I'm really excited by it. Is like if you could create your own like taste, right? So I could have Rourke's taste and you could have Dong's taste and you could flick them on. And it would kind of give you those imagery and
Oh,
those video styles in Dong's taste and in Rourke's taste. And then like creating a platform where all of these other creators can have their own taste and style. And you can like release those almost like if you kind of scale back, it's almost like a preset pack that you might have for like color grading. It's like that is a style, or maybe a font pack, that's a style. But then having your own imagery would be sick. That would be so cool. So, I come up with these like random ideas all the time that like I would love to implement. And with the introduction of things like vibe coding and like all of these new ways to create products, I'm sure that these crazy ideas that people have will become easier than ever to create. So, yeah, those are probably some things that I would just love to work on.
God, that would be so freaking awesome if you could have your look as a preset and choose to collaborate your look with your friends' look, colleagues. There could be a whole like looks library almost, like see what other wacky, awesome, creative collaborations when these four artists who've made a look and then you saw
Mm,
the creation of those four looks together and you're like,
mm.
whoa, that is
Yeah,
very much them. It's
yeah,
it's them in a way that we wouldn't know
yeah,
otherwise.
yeah. Because like yeah, a lot of artists have like their own style. And I think that like if you could recreate that style in digital form and let other people collaborate with it, but allow the person who creates that style to be paid when you use their style would be so sick. I don't know. It sounds like maybe an impossible dream, but something like that would be so cool.
You'll just have to vibe code this with like GPT-5 and then get Claude 7 and
Yeah.
say make it, and then it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. In like a year's time, I'm sure somebody will have made this exact product. But yeah, it's super cool. There's loads of stuff that I'd love to do in this space.
How important is it to you that we have more AI ecosystems like this?
Ecosystems in what context?
Like, maybe I'll rephrase it differently. What would be your ideal AI ecosystem?
In an ideal world, everything is trained ethically, number one, in an ideal world. But the quality of all of these models are I like there being sorry, I'm like going through loads of ideas right now. But I'll start again. I would say that an ideal ecosystem would be one where there's lots of competition. because I think competition is good. I originally was going to say, let's have one model that is just does everything, because that would be simple, kind of like this free pick analogy that we used earlier. But I think competition is so healthy, and I love the fact that it's so easy to create, because it now opens up the world to anyone to compete. So I love that there's competition. I'd say more competition. Bring in more people into this space, because there's so many people who kind of haven't charted the AI territory yet. So the perfect ecosystem is loads of competition. I'd say it's having the ability to create in forms that we aren't creating with right now. I don't want to have to create on a tablet or like a device. I'd love to be able to create in real time with AGI, and like create in 3D spaces. I think would be the ideal world, because it's kind of like would get people out and about and be in public with people. So yeah, that's kind of like an ecosystem that I would dream of.
So would you say like modalities are important too? Like, are you mostly, when you're working on these machines, are you typing? Are you speaking to a computer? Are you uploading images or videos? Do you have any weight on any of those, or is it kind of a mixture of everything?
I talk to ChatGPT a lot, and I definitely use voice for ChatGPT more than typing. I would say that with all of these creative tools for image generation, video generation, it's all text based. And there's complexes in that too, because like a lot of people don't know how to prompt. Also in that ecosystem, I would love it for it to be like easier for people to create what they're thinking of. Because right now we've got this issue where people can think of what they want, but they might not be able to have the skills to prompt what they want. So an ecosystem where people can more easily, we should come up with a system where people can more easily create what they're thinking of.
Why do you think that matters so much?
Because I think everybody has an expression that everyone wants to be heard. I think everyone wants to be heard, and everyone has valid points. And in the creative space, I feel like when you create content, you're basically putting your voice out there for people to hear you and understand you. So for me, it's important that people can express their creativity so that they can also be heard. So I guess that's why that matters to me. So people can express their imagination better.
Wow. And then I guess what kind of world do you think we would live in, or how would the world change if everybody could express their imagination better?
I hope that if people could express their imagination better, we'd live in a world where people would be able to understand things from more people's point of view and perspectives. So, like, an example I would use is when someone might make like a documentary about their life or somebody's life who might touch you in some way, and you're like very, very excited, or you feel some kind of way, whether it's sad, some kind of emotion. You basically, sorry, I'm going to start this again because I'll start that again. So what I think is, if you were to create like a documentary and you had somebody who is consuming a documentary, it would make you feel a certain way, whether it's happy, sad, you relate to the character. And I think that it helps educate people on their perspectives and their lives. So, like, let's say you were watching somebody in the slums in India, for example, and like if you take a story like Slumdog Millionaire, or you take a documentary about the slums in India, you visually see and you kind of empathize and you understand their situation. And I think that's so important in a world where we live our own lives and we focus on our own lives. When you can use your imagination to tell stories, you'll be able to connect and understand people on a deeper level. So I think that it will just open the door for creatives to tell their story, and hopefully create a world where we understand each other better as humans. And so that's why I am passionate about AI creativity. And I'd love to work on like short films that help tell people stories. Like that would be so cool. Yeah, that's just awesome.
I really love your perspective here. It's just like, it's so refreshing because some people, when I ask that question, they might only have tech as the reason why they're in it. But what I'm hearing from you is like the ability to have stories be heard that tell and share real self expression to allow people to connect in ways that would have taken them outside of their little silos that we're in, in our feeds. So that's just really refreshing and honorable.
Yeah, well, Yeah, it's exactly what you were just saying. And I think that like with traveling, for example, the reason why people love traveling is that you get to experience a different culture. And like you get to see into other people's lives. You get this very short glimpse, a week when you go away traveling. You get this week-long glimpse into someone else's life. And if you were to apply that to AI and let people tell their story, you could see it, visually through their lens. And I feel like that would just be so magical.
That would be truly magical. On a side note, have you been seeing that trend with VO3 this week where they have videos where the characters talk about this thing called the prompt theory? Have you been seeing
Yes,
any of
yes.
those?
Hashim is actually the guy who created it, and he's somebody that I've been in contact with. He's very, very talented.
Oh my goodness. So you've been chatting. I did not know Hashim.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, yeah. He's based out of Dubai. Very, very talented. He's actually like when these new AI tools drops, he's always creating something like that goes crazy. And this was just one of those. The prompt theory is great.
Wow. Okay. I've been like maybe emotionally moved by the prompt theory, seeing
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And just like I felt like we were seeing a glimpse of what might actually happen with enough time as the models improve. Where like, can you imagine you go to prompt your character to do something and then it says, "I don't want to do that."
Yeah, like when the AI kind of fights back.
Yeah. Like right now, we
Yeah.
see it in text. When you're in Claude or something, and you ask for something, it says, "Oh, sorry, that's outside my guidelines. I can't answer that. I can't address that." But imagine if this was in real time, and it was as if you were on a video call with a AI character that you just created from your tool of choice, and then you have this idea of a story in your mind that you want to share, and you go and type it in or speak your command to this future system, and then the character does some of it, but then it looks up at you and it's like, "I don't think I want to do the shot this way."
Mm, and it
How would you
challenges you. Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, what if what if you go to prompt an action of one of your characters and then the character responded by actively not doing it
I think it
intentionally?
Yeah, intentionally is interesting because it depends also what the intent is. If it's to challenge my creativity, I think that it could be a great thing. Like if it's fighting
Ooh.
back and being like, actually, I'm not going to do that. Have you considered this? I'd be like, okay, that's pretty dope. That's cool because it's like giving me ideas as to how I could improve my prompt, for example. Or maybe it knows my style and it's like, well, actually, this would be more consistent with like the last video you made. So if you want to use this, I would go with this instead. Then it's like an assistant. So I would say like challenging isn't like if it's challenging you in that way, it's fantastic. But if it's challenging you and it's just like, I'm not going to do that, then that's more of like a tech issue, I feel like that they would need to solve.
I just imagine a silly situation where, like, let's say, like the credits are dropping in real time as you're talking to the model, and like you ask the character to do something, and it's arguing with you about it, and you're just seeing your credits being used up as you're like, "Okay, just do the shot real quick," and it's like, "Nah, I don't know what I think about that." And again, the credits are just rolling. Eventually, you get to like pause the model, and be like, "Okay, no." Or what if it walks off screen, but it's like let's say like I walked out of frame right now, but it was still generating all the pixels of like the back wall and it's still
Mhm.
using those credits. And you have
Mm.
to like yell into your microphone, "Hey, come back. We're not done with the shot yet."
Well, do you know what the crazy part is? You could prompt this in VO3 right now, and you could tell that story that you just dictated. That would be so cool. You should totally do that.
Okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
Damn. Okay, I'll
that
do
that would be
that.
really cool. That would be really cool. What a world we live
Wow.
in.
It is such a wild world. I didn't, wow. You're right. The tools exist right now that if I had that story in my head,
Mhm,
in the past, I would have been like, oh, I need to like maybe get a budget together
mhm,
to plan out the shoot and
mhm,
rent equipment and
mhm,
now it's like, you're right. We could go
mm.
right after this video call and I can go explore this idea and see an output and share it with the world. So, wow. God, you're
Yeah.
like, I'm feeling like areas of my own brain are activating after you reflect that question back at me. I'm like, oh my
Mm.
goodness, you could just do that now.
Yeah. This is, yeah, to kind of add to what you're saying right now is like, it's kind of interesting because I feel like a lot of people have these ideas and they don't know how to execute. And a lot of people, when they like will email or message me to work together, it's like they'll kind of say to me, I have this thing that I want to do. Is this possible? And I'm like, I love that. Is this possible question that they're adding on to the end? Because they're like, I have this idea and I want you to try and make this into a reality for me. And that is so magical because in a world where it just wasn't possible before, people are asking, is this possible now? And I'm like, yeah, it is. But what we have to do is we have to do a crap load of research and development and we have to play and you have to give us some time to go and figure out how to create what you want us to create. And it's possible, but just give us some time. So that's what I think is really cool to kind of add on to that.
Thank you so much, Rourke. I'm just so curious, is there any philosophies that you live by that you could share with our audience here?
Hmm. The one word that I have kind of like tattooed in the back of my head is just stay consistent, Rourke. It's just stay consistent. Like, if you're passionate about something, go and chase it. I am so lucky that I'm in a position where I cannot wait to wake up in the morning. And every day, like every single day, I feel so, so lucky. And that's because I found something that I was passionate about and which was education. And I was able to find a niche, AI, that kind of like fit that bill. And right now, I would say find what you're passionate about and just be consistent about it. And play play is the number one word that I want people to take away is just play. And there is no better time to play than right now. Like you're not too late. If you sign up right now to any of these tools, you're still an early adopter. You're not too late. You're still early. So just play.
Rourke, where could people find your latest work, your latest play, your latest experiments, where we can see the consistency that you live by?
So it's primarily on Instagram. So it's at Rourke Heath on Instagram and the same on TikTok. And
Could
I
you
have a
spell it
small,
out? Could you
yeah,
spell it out loud for the audio listeners?
yeah, of course. So Rourke is my name. So Rourke and then Heath, which is Heath. So Rourke. And yeah, over there, I post educational content about AI tools so that you, as a new user, or maybe you're an advanced user, there's something there for everyone to kind of learn and encourage you to start playing.
Rourke, it's been such an honor to have you on the Rethink Reality podcast. I'm going to go ahead and end the show here. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Guys, thank you so much for having me, Dom. Thank you.